tasting of the welcome to the February shipment, virtual tasting. And sorry Dick can't join us tonight. You know, we've shifted to 4 wines per offering 3 times a year, and that's one too many wines for Dick. So joining me tonight is my good friend and winemaker, David.
Hello.
David Whitehair, who has been with Foxen since 2007 and has become a very meticulous and instrumental winemaker for us, and in the completely Foxen way. And it's just, it's really been fun to watch this progress with David, and been fun for me to kind of kick back a little bit and let David kind of take over. We have 4 wines tonight, and it's a great selection. We're gonna, let me see. Let's talk about what we expect of the 2022 vintage. It's been a really cold, but not a lot of rainfall this winter. And so we're starting to gear up a little early. David's got, you want to say what we've been up to?
Sure,
David?
yeah, we just, we finished pruning out our upper vineyard, Tinnaquac Alta. And so we were up there this last week mulching. And so we were mulching all the pruning up into the rows as well as the cover crop. And it becomes a tricky game as a farmer this time of the year, because especially being a dry farm vineyard, it's a game between allowing the cover crop to flower, which has nitrogen fixing pea, vetch, and bean in there, and barley as well. And then it comes with a game with bud break in the vineyard. So we have to play between when the vines need the water and how long we can keep the cover crop in. So right now we're busy mowing down the cover crop, getting it all dialed in, and we've actually seen just a little hints of bud break in the upper corner of the Chardonnay,
which is not early by any means. It's kind of normal so far, but I think that the way the weather's been this year so far, it's kind of tricking the vines a little bit in both directions. I think the vines want to bud out because the afternoons are in the 70s, and we were in the 80s last week.
Absolutely.
And then, but we're down into the 30s, and I think David had a 27 at his place.
Yeah, it was real cold that
the other morning. So we're going, this time of the year, it's so typical to have your heater cranking coming to work in the morning and your air conditioning on in the afternoon coming home. So it's really, we don't know what to expect this minute. We just hope we have enough kind of charge in the upper vineyard to keep these vines going and to set and produce a decent crop.
And speaking of pruning too, we just finished actually today the last of our vineyard, which is our lower Tinnaquac vineyard. And that being said, we pre-prune and we prune as late as we possibly can, and that helps offset bud break as well. And so when you have these fluctuations in temperatures too, the later you can prune, it's just one trick that we have up our sleeve to help kind of keep the vine dormant just for a little bit longer. So that way, and that can be the difference sometimes between
2 weeks.
And that can be the difference in having a crop and not having a crop sometimes. So
It is.
we do our best. So
okay, so let's kind of dive into these wines. We've got the Pinot Noir Block 43 Biennacido vineyard. Okay, this is a vineyard that was planted 10 years after Block 8, 2006. Block 8 was 1996. The clones in Block 43, Dijon 667, Dijon 777, were not available in the USA from France in 1996. So we were able to utilize these 2 clones in Block 43. So it's a different animal than Block 8. And when we planted Block 8 back in 96, there wasn't a lot of alarm about global warming and climate change. So the rule of thumb was if you could plant north-south alignment, plant your rows north-south, you would get the maximum amount of sunlight during the day, which was awesome. And in 2006, we're starting to say, wow, it's starting to get hot. And maybe we don't need as much sunlight as we had or getting. And so we realign the block. So it kind of goes, David, it's
Northeast, southwest a little bit.
in a kind of a nice uniform,
I'd say about almost 25 to 30% grade slope on
which
that,
is
so
actually absolutely perfect. So the deal is we're looking for less sunlight now in the canopy. And we'll see on some of the slides here, especially in our estate vineyard, what we're doing to kind of reduce the amount of radiation into the canopy. Because when you get a heat wave of 100+ degrees and those grapes are totally exposed, 100%
we got
exposed,
raisins.
it's like somebody from Alaska going to Waikiki without any sunscreen, and that's what happens. So block 43, David and I have noticed since probably the 17 vintage, and this is the 18 vintage, that it's really starting to mature, and it's becoming not just the little brother of block 8, but mature sibling of block 8.
Mhm.
And with the different clones, like I said, it's a little bit different animal.
How is the flavor profile different from the block 8?
I think it's a little more, David, do you have anything to say? I think the tannins are a little more because it's still a little young.
I do. I believe it's got a little more firm grip in the tannins.
667.
Yeah, absolutely. And and the 777 really adds a real nice fattiness into it as well, a real rich fattiness, and almost a little, dare I say, a little feral.
Yeah, right.
In a good way, a very earthy feralness.
Earthy, little
Yeah,
earthy.
and those are great components that we do not have in the block 8. Not having the 667 and the 777 in there, that really showcase great in this wine.
We just went through the 2021
Oh, wow.
single vineyard Pinot Noirs, and the block 43 just blew us away. Both lots, both clones completely blew us away, and we just were fascinated by it.
Yeah.
The 2021, not just this block 43,
Mhm.
but anyway. Oh, let me tell you a little bit about David. Didn't I say that? That David showed up this day at the shack during harvest.
What year
We were
was
just
that?
2007.
Yes.
2007. He had this Hawaiian shirt on, but he did have some long pants on. I go, "Oh, this is not the Foxen way." But he gave me his resume and said he'd been here and been here and been here. And I think I called him that night.
You did.
Because I went home and I said, "Beck, we need help." And this kid came by today and gave me his resume. And I think he's going to work for us. I just have this feeling.
And that was right after coming back from New Zealand too. I was just
Yeah.
looking for work, and
Oh, but you did go up to Sonoma for about
Chalk Hill.
yeah, Chalk
Chalk
Hill.
Hill.
Oh, excuse me. Chalk Hill. Yes, it was. Dare I say, it wasn't my cup of tea. So I gave it about a week of my time, and I realized that the Napa wasn't my thing. So I came home.
But
Yeah.
you're from here.
I'm born and raised. So
Hilton,
very local. And
San
so-
Ynez High.
And
Yeah.
and knowing that you make some of the best Chenin Blanc, and you guys were pouring the Cab Franc that day at the shack too. I remember it was Mo behind the bar too. So
And you didn't do like some other people have done, come up and did a complete tasting. And
So
looking
you're
for-
both a part of the terroir now.
Yeah, David is Foxen terroir now.
and that's
Ian
what.
Mo, both 15 years. or-
Yeah, and so
Enrique.
I had
Enrique,
Whitfield that
yeah.
night asking me to start, and so I was there
It's
Monday.
good. It's been really good.
It's taken me under
Couldn't
the wing.
ask for anything better. So this block 43, if you're gonna serve it, I really like poultry or game bird fish.
Mhm.
And I was just thinking today, because I'm doing my backyard bird count through the Cornell Bird Lab this weekend, all the Asian doves that we have around here that are not an indigenous species, they were introduced, and they would be so good on the grill. And we help solve the overpopulation problem. They would be good. They would be like squab. Yeah, it would be really good.
How about a vegetarian pairing?
Oh, chanterelles. If we do get some more rain, but this time of year we do get chanterelles, and you can do chanterelles anyway. Just in a casserole, maybe with a side of pilau or wild rice.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Sounds really
A
good.
little risotto with the chanterelles.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be good. Chanterelle risotto. Yeah. Anyway, we're really happy about, we had our choice of a lot of hillside blocks when they did the hillside development in 2006 at Bienesito. And I think we picked the right one. And we're pretty good at that, knowing where the terroir is going to be better than other terroir. We've spent a lot of time at John Sebastiano Vineyard doing that over the years. And, we played this kind of hopscotch at John Sebastiano. And I think we're finally there where we've got all the best situations at that vineyard, which is, you got 50 choices, 50 blocks of Pinot Noir. How do you do it?
Yeah, be quiet.
Okay,
All right,
let's
back at it.
let's move on.
That's really nice.
Any questions out there before?
So again, this was
Before we
in
move
barrel
on?
for 16 months,
16 months,
and I think,
about 35% new French oak in there.
yeah, and I think we used the
Troyes.
Troy barrels, so 3-year-old French oak staves, medium toasted long. We like a long, medium toast, because the idea is to not overshadow the fruit with the oak,
But help lift it up.
you want to lift that,
And
and
this is-
that was a good one.
Yeah, this is our 3rd year actually using the Troy barrels too. So we found that it really accompanying the 43 really nice. They just work
Yeah.
really well together. And so we like that. And so
And still no fining or filtration?
none whatsoever.
Because we don't have to.
We don't want to. And
If you don't put it in, you don't have to pick it up.
it's a lot of extra. work.
Okay, the 2018 Tinnaquac Vineyard Syrah from the Bajita estate.
You want to explain the Bajita versus the
Alta?
Alta?
Yeah, the Bajita means our lower parcel, and so that's actually planted right next to the winery. So when you come into the winery, that's the vineyard you see as you drive in. And the Alta vineyard is our dry farm vineyard, which is our 10 acres that sits up top in the canyon. And so our lower vineyard has 2 different clones of Syrah separated by 2 rows of Viognier. We have 174 and 470. We have 2 clones of Cab Franc, clone 4 and clone 623.
Those are all the NTAV clone. NTAV is actually the French USDA equivalent. So they release these to the US, and we pay a premium to use these clones, and we can't cut them and sell them to anybody legally.
And then we got a little bit of Petit Verdot.
Yeah, a little bit of
A
PB.
little bit of PB, which goes a long way.
Yeah. So this wine, we usually, with those 2 rows of Viognier that separate the 2 Syrah clones, it's usually about 8% Viognier in this co-fermentation. In 2018,
We lost it all to all the yellow jackets.
we lost it all to the
So
freaking
Mother
hornets.
Nature, she's always throwing a curveball at you one way or the other. And in 2018, the Viognier was tasting so good that it was there one day, and we came out to the vineyard the next, and it was gone.
It's like honey.
Yeah, exactly.
But from that experience, we have since got shade screen and netted just at the point of aeration, netted the whole Viognier, which not only keeps the yellow jackets off it, but it shades screen, so it slows the Viognier down So the bricks at harvest are more compatible with the Syrah.
Absolutely.
So you don't get a lot of confusion in your chemistry when you go to fermenter. Okay, because there's no Viognier in here, we didn't co-ferm. We did leave about 10% whole cluster in the fermenters. And this is true Syrah. It doesn't have that aromatic lift that Viognier would give it, or that kind of violet, flowery spice. This is a great picture here, if you're looking, of the lower vineyard Cabernet Franc, because this is irrigated Cabernet Franc. And David waters this meticulously and regularly during the growing season. And you can see that the shoot growth is really great, and about 2 to 3 feet, which is perfect to ripen clusters. And it's also because those are so tall and nice, we're getting a lot of carbos in there, a lot of carbohydrates, which the vine's going to move down to the roots at the end of the season, this is the picture of having, those shoots have already done that. They're down in the roots, and now we're ready to prune, or pre-prune, as David said, first.
Exactly. That's a great photo.
So
So
this
I
is true.
I'm going to
true
interrupt.
Syrah.
I understand there's a really good question from Doug,
Sure.
but it's not showing up. Maybe Riley
Question
could
and answer.
ask. Yeah,
Maybe David ought to be. the
yeah, I know,
Right
David.
here.
I know.
I got it. I can-
Oh, it just popped in. It
Oh,
just
I
popped in.
You got it, Jenny?
Yes, yeah, now
There we
it's
go,
come
there
up.
we go.
All right. Oh, this is from Ken.
Oh, it's a different question. Doug has one in the
Okay.
chat.
Okay, so can you read the question?
Yeah.
Yep.
You
Absolutely.
talked about reorienting vines to get best sun exposure
Uh-huh.
Level
Are
and
you-
block.
in
Are you-
block 43.
Experimenting with different locations in the John Sebastiano vineyard. Can you clarify how you do this, and how do you change the rows or canopy, or replant, physically move vines?
Okay, in block
Short answer.
43, it was set up intentionally to not be direct north-south. So we eliminated the maximum sunlight exposure because we shifted it to northeast, southwest. At John Sebastiano Vineyard, with 50 little mini blocks, and we're in there all year long, every year, and we're making wine from these different blocks, and that's just experience. We just know, oh, this is not right, or this is not right, or this is right. And so now we're on an east-west exposure up top of the canyon with 2 blocks, and down below we're in a little bit bigger canopy that's got more shading, and those are actually north-south, but with a bigger canopy and less leaf pulling and less canopy manipulation, we're not getting as much sunlight, direct sunlight.
Good answer.
Swan.
Swanee.
This is really nice. Like, well,
So
530.
this, without the Viognier, it's a little bit darker than it's been in previous vintages, but it still has that, what we get at Tinnaquac with our Syrah white pepper aromatics.
Oh, sure.
Williamson Duray, where we are tonight, always it's that black telecherry pepper.
Yeah, and, okay, Riley has a question she's
Sure.
going to read in from Doug.
Great.
Hi, everyone. Ghost voice from the ether. Doug White put a question into the chat. Do Billy and David ever have differences of opinion on blending or other finishing steps? And how do you settle them?
We do,
This
and
way.
we roll the dice. We have this pair of red dice that was found up at the May Party grounds on the estate. And they sit in the lab.
Yep.
And if there's ever any question, and there's usually not,
No.
and they sit on the windowsill with a 7 and an 11 that you see. And so we'll roll the dice and we'll play dice. But you know, David knows all the Foxen wines, and he knows the direction we want. And So it's really not a question. We're both pretty agreeable.
You're
I
like an
gotta-
old married couple.
I gotta say that I've pretty much learned all of my best winemaking skills from this man right here. And so from him taking me in under his wing for as long as we have, I've learned pretty much the Foxen way and the way that Billy makes wine. And so that's kind of translated over the years. I mean, so all of my best winemaking skills were learned in here at House at Foxen. And so that really puts us in alignment, you know, and so that's kind of from day one, we've always just kind of been putting
Hit it
foot.
off.
So yeah, so you know, here we are 15, 16, how many years later it's been, so.
Okay, so
Great question.
What-
Thanks for the,
what's the best food for this? And I got to tell you, Santa Maria style barbecue. And
Hitching
it- and,
post.
either Hitching Post,
Oof.
Hitching Post 2 in Buellton, Hitching Post the original in Casmalia. What did we talk about today? This
It's the Swiss Chalet, the far
Swiss
western,
Chalet.
yeah.
in Old Town Santa Maria.
They got some good barbecue, too.
But it's mostly, it's red oak barbecue, either tri-tip or top block sirloin, right, Dick?
Yes,
Pinquito beans,
Garlic bread.
garlic bread,
Ooh.
salsa, and what kind of salads do they do? Do they do like
Just-
marshmallow salad? or something?
Head lettuce. They do, it's the most unhealthy.
Dick, show your face in there.
Tell me
Yeah.
about Santa Maria barbecue. You've been around that
They
long.
do head lettuce, the kind of stuff you're not supposed to eat. And the beans are really
Isn't
good.
there some kind of weird marshmallow salad or something? Or is that his?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's weird stuff.
Anyway,
don't want that.
Santa Maria style barbecue, red oak, slow cooked. This wine has a great affinity for that.
And I gotta say, trying the wine too, I gotta say, not having the Viognier in there really kind of elevates the lavender aspect of this Syrah too. It's got this blackberry and this real nice lavender that really comes through on the nose.
Mhm.
And I really get it, and I think the Viognier plays well with the honeysuckle and violet, but this kind of allows a chance for that lavender kind of take center stage. It's great.
You know what? I got an
Little
idea
pepper, too.
with Santa Maria style barbecue. Why don't we see if we could get barrels made from California red
Oh,
oak?
man. Wouldn't that be-
There you go.
Marinades and
There you go.
tri-tips and-
You Put a steak in it.
Okay, any questions about the Syrah? Because we'll move on to
Yeah.
the
I mean,
Bordeaux.
Billy, you made a quote earlier today about Robert
Yeah,
Mondavi.
I
and
read
Pinot
this
Noir.
quote today from Robert Mondavi. And, Robert Mondavi was never notorious as a Pinot Noir maker. I don't think he ever made a Pinot
Yeah,
Noir,
they had a couple.
or maybe, a Napa Pinot Noir. But
perhaps.
I really appreciated the quote. He said that a Pinot Noir should never knock your socks off. It should only slip them off.
huh,
And I just thought that was great, that,
That's sums it up.
it's the, what is it?
Velvet
The,
love.
Silkiness.
it's the steel hand in a velvet glove or whatever. Okay.
Boy, I-
Nice.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the Vogelzang Cabernet. We've been working with the Vogelzangs since the year 2000. We made our first wine in 2000 off the Vogel, planted in 1998. So it was actually the second vineyard planted in Happy Canyon AVA before it became an AVA. So we have this long-running relationship with Happy Canyon Cab from the Vogelzangs. And the core of these wines have been from multiple blocks. Vogelzang Vineyard it's kind of sits in this kind of gravelly, chunky soil, a lot of serpentine, a lot of chert. So it's like cobble. It's cobble in this clay soil, and with these gentle rolling slopes. our blocks are all pretty uniform. If it's a hillside block, it doesn't have any backside to it or any swale. It's pretty direct, almost like block 43. And so we've dealt with the original block of clone 337, block 8, which is the original vines from 98. Block
We got block J, which is 341.
341, original planting.
We got block G4, which is clone 8.
Clone 8, which is the California
And
clone.
then our love-hate relationship with block I2.
Oh, which is the C clone. It's
C's family.
C's family, the sea candy family that has a vineyard in Napa, and they had some special clone of Cabernet that Mary Beth Vogelsang got a hold of and planted a little bit. And it's just, I mean, it can be this really, really, it's always good, but it's always this
Always
troublesome to work with.
always makes a great wine, but the love-hate relationship is, when you're working with it there on the stemmer, it either
just completely blows apart, or it comes through really
really
nice.
beautiful. So
And it depends on the vintage, because I think that it's the strength of the pedicels on the actual cluster.
I do too.
That kind of either hold it together on the bad side or let it go on the good side. Yeah.
So maybe can you talk a little bit about what makes Happy Canyon special and suited for
Sure.
these varieties?
Okay, so you're all familiar or not familiar with the Santa Ynez Valley, but it's the kind of the transverse valley, like the Santa Maria Valley. And when it gets up just past the Los Olivos district, you get this little ridge there that kind of separates this Happy Canyon, which is actually a north-south running canyon. So you get a little bit less marine layer because that ridge will stop the marine layer, or the heat from Happy Canyon will stop that marine layer from encroaching. And you also have really cold nights. So you got this really warm days, warm to hot days during the growing season, and cold nights. So especially for like Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc is the white of Happy Canyon, and we, of course, make a Sauvignon Blanc from Happy Canyon. So you have these diurnal shifts of like 40 degrees, 45 degrees in the morning, and maybe 95 degrees in the afternoon during the regular growing season. So that's usually 40 to 50 degrees diurnal shifts, and that's huge. So these grapes retain their acidity. As far as the reds, they love it. They love that gravelly cobble clay soil. It's not like Williamson Dray here, which is kind of, what do we call it, gumbo? Dicky gumbo.
Dicky gumbo.
Which is great for the Syrah here in Grenache, but not really for these Bordeaux varietals.
They love the heat.
They love the heat, and they weather the heat waves
Mhm.
a lot better than the thin-skinned varieties like Grenache and Pinot Noir. So, if we get 120 degrees, as long as they can put some water on the vine a little bit every day, those thick skins are going to keep it from dehydrating,
Mhm.
that berry from dehydrating.
What's
which is-
what's the physical difference between Santa Rita Hills and Happy Canyon, and therefore the temperature difference?
How many miles is it?
Let's
It's
see.
20 miles, so 20 degrees. So when we're sampling during harvest, we always start out in Happy Canyon in the morning, because if we started in Lompoc in the morning, we'd be out here and the numbers wouldn't be right because the grapes would be too warm. So we start here and then work west. But actually 20 degrees. So like the Santa Maria Valley, it's a degree per mile as you either go east or west in these transverse valleys. As far as what Happy Canyon Cabernets characteristically, what are we looking at here? And what we had a sit down with a lot of the producers in Happy Canyon were talking about Happy Canyon Cabernet. And what we came up with, and you know, David's an avid hiker and wilderness runner in the backcountry. And I said, David, this is like wet sage. And he goes, absolutely. If you wake up,
It's
in the
like
morning,
waking up at
get out
Lost
of your
Valley,
tent.
yeah. You got that fog, that little dampness on that sage, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what is
So,
telltale Happy
Yeah,
Canyon.
along with all those nice red fruits and cassis. And then we use, we use 3-year age staves in our barrels. These are Terranceau barrels from our friend Moki.
2
And
years,
you get that nice cedar chest.
right?
My mother always had a cedar chest, and she'd open it up, and all 9 of us kids would come in and go, oh, yeah.
Let's see what else.
And this,
Did she lock you in there?
Yeah. when we were bad. For this wine, I just said, okay, give me a prime ribeye,
Mm.
cooked rare for me. I don't know how anybody else likes it. Rare for me with some gorgonzola potatoes au gratin, because that gorgonzola in the potatoes just makes this wine shine. And then, of course, it just jumps all over the juiciness of the ribeye. And the
Anything with
red
that
meat.
creamy gorgonzola
Yeah.
is just great.
And this wine will go, this is an 18, this will go
Oh,
for another 8-10 years,
Maybe longer than we will.
maybe longer than us. In fact,
Not to
we just opened up our staff meeting, not this week, but last week, a Foxen 1987 Cabernet Sauvignon. And it was in really good shape, but it was corked.
But once you look past the cork,
Yeah,
I mean,
it was good.
it was amazing to show how much life it actually had left. That's saying a lot, for Cab.
And we opened yesterday at the staff meeting, and David was busy racking yesterday, but we opened a 1995 Foxen Syrah Morehouse vineyard.
Yeah.
And it had so much life. It was just really good. So think about that when you're, if you want to put down some of the 2018 Tinaquac Syrah, that it'll go.
Any questions? Please feel free to punch them into the Q&A section, or Riley can read out any that come in on the chat.
Well, Scott, really good.
Hey, Scott,
Wake
are
up,
you
Scott.
there?
You there,
Scott,
Scotty?
right here, man. Okay, let's move on. This is the first of the 19s. This is our 2019 Cabernet Franc Tinaquac Vineyard.
You didn't put any Petit Verdot. in this
No
wine.
Petit Verdot in here because we bottled the Petit Verdot on its own in our 2022 bottling. So, I just love the kind of the
Paprika.
dusty paprika blueberry.
Wow.
Okay, here's a nice picture.
Hey, look at those good-looking guys there.
This was during the peak of COVID in 2019, and we're both pretty long in the tooth there hair-wise. But you can see this canopy aside us and behind us. This is just when we want to go in and start opening up the fruit zone. Not a lot, just a little bit. What we do is tunnel. So we leave the external leaves and clean up the inside so we can kind of protect the berries from too much sun these days. And also we would go in and hedge that top of that canopy so you get a nice uniform canopy, everything the same.
Okay, Scott's got a great, it's Katie.
No, that's Katie.
Katie,
Katie.
thank you, Katie. Looking forward to seeing you in June, if not before. Great question. Will there be future vintages of the sparkling Shannon? It's my new favorite. And I have to add that I just got word there's 5 cases left.
Okay, only 5 cases left of the
But
19.
the good news is,
We do have we will have a sparkling wine from the 2021 vintage. We will store the entourage for 2 years, maybe 3, because we want to add a little more complexity and yeastiness to this Shannon, and I'm sorry about that, but
it's gonna be
I'm
worth the
not-
wait.
I just it's going to be worth the wait.
Absolutely.
We are going to tirage it soon in the next couple of months.
Maybe you could
so-
explain what the tirage is for those who may not.
Well, when we pick, this is from the Ernesto Wickenden Vineyard, which planted in 1966. So this is like my personal Disneyland, and I think it's becoming David's too.
Oh,
It's just a bitchin' place to go hang out. So you take these grapes and you pick them at probably between 19 and 21 bricks. You want to start with a low ABV, alcoholic,
Alcohol.
by volume.
I have one alcoholic beverage, so we just had ABC training, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, and then we take this wine and we filter it and we add yeast. We actually bottle it in the champagne bottles and add yeast to that
A little bit of sugar.
and a little bit of sugar and cap it, and it ferments in the bottle, and that's the tirage. So you put that in bins and you just store it for however long you want. And for example, the 2019 sparkling was a year in tirage before we bottled it, and it was great, and we were really happy with the outcome of it, but we thought that it just needed a little more complexity. I mean, granted, 2019 is just absolutely beautiful with shellfish and oysters and all those things, but I want to push it.
It'll get a little bit more of the yeasty,
Yeah.
biscuity
Yeah.
notes.
I
the
want to
longer.
I want to push the envelope, and David does too.
Yeah,
So,
tirage too is when we make the bubbles.
Yeah.
So with that yeast and that sugar.
So
too,
now's your opportunity to stock up on
Get
what's
that last
left.
5 cases.
I
Yeah.
might
And-
take. I
and
might
patience.
just take those and put
Put
them.
'em on your shelf.
They need to
Sorry.
go in the library. Okay, Tinaquock Cab Franc. You saw the picture up there of the canopy. This was in a really good rainfall year. Okay, and now we have it. The picture on the right is that same vintage. You can see we tunneled the canopy. You have a hard time seeing the fruit in there, but you do see light in there. And that's what we want. We want filtered light in there with enough penetration to get our organic sprays in there. And then you see it's been hedged on the top, so everything's all uniform. And I think that one on the right, that thing that's sticking up, is that one on the left?
I think it is.
It is
The same-
probably
the same
by,
way.
It just gives you a good idea of how long it was before we hedged it too, so. Sometimes one gets missed. here and there, so. Yeah.
but you know, the Cabernet Franc, Dick and I planted originally in 1989 in the upper vineyard, the original Tinaquock vineyard. And and people thought we were crazy planting these Bordeaux varietals up there. And we said, oh, you need to plant Chardonnay. Oh, you need to plant Gewürztraminer, Dale Hampton, because he planted 15 acres of Gewürztraminer at his place in the 80s and couldn't sell it. But we actually found out that the Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon were not a good fit up there because we couldn't get any crop. It would shatter because of our springtime winds and the bloom time at the wrong time. But the Franc seemed to work. It really seemed to work. And I think it's become with Syrah, the go-to varietals for us on the estate. They just seem to have found a home. They show themselves beautiful. The Franc is still a little bit on the fence line as to being in the right place or wrong place, but that's where I want it right now. Is for with global warming and stuff. I think it's the right choice and the right site. It always gives us this wonderful, wonderful, like David said, when you're fermenting it in the fermenters and pumping it over, you always get this kind of cayenne paprika nose, and you just kind of go, WTF, you know, what is
It's
this?
so intense.
But it just turns into this a little bit of paprika and this dusty blueberry that is just awesome.
Guys, I just want to interrupt really quick. Scott
Sure.
responded a few minutes ago to your razzing him. He just said he got up and put on his Rams hat and he wants to know when baseball is
Oh.
going to start, Billy.
You know what? I'm just hoping really soon, because I'm kind of chomping at the bit to watch some baseball. My favorite game in the world. And, you know, I live with an accountant and bean counter, and she just loves the whole baseball idea of
All the statistics?
the statistics, and she's so good at it, and the game changing every pitch. And so, Scott, looking forward to a good Dodger season.
Unless the Giants have a better season.
Anyway, back to this. You know, I made this ground turkey meatloaf and put these roasted pimento peppers in it, and it was so good. Maybe a little bit of oregano in it too, because this has a little bit of
Yeah.
that oregano.
That herbaceous in a
Yeah.
really good way.
Yeah, in a good way. And that's what you need to understand, that herbaceous in a wine is okay.
It's all
It doesn't need to be a
It's
fruit
all about
bomb.
balance.
Yeah, and it's all about what you can match it up with. Come on, think about it. What's these
I'm
herbs in
thinking
here?
meat
and
by
one of my-
meatloaf.
Yeah, I know.
So I did a
Going
turkey,
to his house for dinner.
ground turkey roasted pimento meatloaf, and then I had this plum ketchup
Ooh.
that was awesome with it. And then with a side of caramelized onion mashed potatoes. And it was really good. And then I did some honey glazed root vegetables. I use carrots, but you could use turnips too if you want to go white. And it's just perfect with this wine.
Mhm.
But use your imagination, you know, figure out what's in here and figure out what you can do to kind of have fun at dinner time.
You're making all of us hungry, Billy.
I know,
I have one more question from Doug White that came into the chat.
good.
Earlier, you guys mentioned that there was no Petit Verdot in this vintage of the Cabernet Franc, and so he's wondering why the decision to do a separate Petit Verdot bottling.
Because first of all, we wanted to keep the Cabernet completely 100% Cabernet Franc off the estate. And we had enough, the little half or 0.55 acres of Petit Verdot right now is making enough to do a separate bottling. And it's really, we just bottled the 19 Petit Verdot. It will be available at some point in the near future, I think. And it's really awesome. It's a big wine, and right now needs decanting, but it's a beautiful wine, and it's our first PV.
We're really excited about it
Can
too.
you explain a few descriptors to get people excited
Of the
about
PV,
what Petit Verdot
great
is?
babe.
A
A lot of grapes.
It's a lot of grape. It's almost like
grape
Welch's
juice.
on steroids.
Yeah, that's why we call it grape babe.
Yeah, very grapey, but also
Great.
tannic in a good way.
Yes.
So let me tell you a little bit about Petit Verdot. It was named Petit Verdot because in Bordeaux, it was always still green, and it has little berries, so the little green. It was always still greenish and still going through veraison when they were picking Cabernet Sauvignon Merlot, and Cabernet Franc. And so it became Petit Verdot, the little green. And it kind of got out of, they kind of forgot about it in Bordeaux. But in California, we picked it up because it ripens really nice here in our continuing global warming climate here. It seems to be a really good grape, and we're seeing more and more of it. And it makes a really, really, it's very hearty, the wine is. And it's deep, but it's really giving if you give it some time. Does that answer your question, Doug? I'm sure down in Texas, they have some Petit Verdot.
Are there some other grape varieties that vintners are experimenting with here as a result of global, in preparation for global warming?
It's twofold in preparation for global warming, but all these kids like these new varietals, and all the young somms like these new varietals. And I'm actually thinking about experimenting with, I'm trying to experiment with Vermentino this year, which is a variety I really like. It's actually from Sardinia and Corsica, but also they grow it in Liguria also. And it makes a really, really, not unlike our Ernesto Wicked and Chenin Blanc, a great, great, refreshing white wine. Not that I would ever give up making our Chardonnays at all, but because I think our Chardonnays are have places to go.
Yeah. All right. Are there any more questions out there?
Just really quick, Doug said yes, that it did answer his question.
Oh.
But Doug, is there any PV in Texas?
Maybe he was saying yes to that too. Could have been.
Oh, great.
yeah.
I don't know. It just says yes.
Twofold.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Okay. Well, thank you all. I hope this has been good for y'all. It's been really good for me to have David here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I
thanks.
think this is, in 4 wines, one more than Dickie can do, so.
At least passed
Yeah.
out back
And, and what you're gonna see in these upcoming virtual tastings is a lot of our new generation of Foxen involved. Not just David, but other players too. And we're welcoming the new generation.
Yeah.
So
Putting the kids to work.
Yeah,
So
looking forward to the next.
you want to remind
Oh,
people?
don't forget your
5%
I was gonna
discount
say
code for
25%.
reordering these wines. February 2022 anchor. And it's valid
Okay.
through February 28th.
okay.
An
so you
additional
got
5%.
about
Remember, there's only 5
10 more
cases.
days.
5 cases of the sparkling.
Oh, the bubbly,
Get it
yeah.
while it lasts.
Because it just keeps getting better.
It
You're
really
gonna have to
does.
beat Dick and Bill on that. All right, everybody.
Okay,
Thank you.
enjoy the shipment. Love you all. Take care.